Good morning. Really, the only rule of the day is if you have questions, ask them. This is not an in-depth tour, but a quick little taste of the shade gardens. And we are going to focus on the shade gardens. If you wanted the sun one, we did that last week. Maybe some of you have been here at other times of the year. Winter and spring open house, there's tons in bloom in the shade gardens. Now there's not a lot in bloom this time of year, but I think the shade gardens are really, really beautiful in the summertime. And those of us who work in the gardens have gotten smart enough to know, work out in the sun gardens in the morning and retreat to the shade gardens in the afternoon. So we'll start. And the other thing is, I'll walk past lots of really cool plants because I can't talk about all 27,000 of them, but I'm happy to talk about any plant if it's of particular interest to you, so just stop me. Okay. What's that? It's always hard to know. Of course, summertime is a superb time to see a wide range of ferns. We have perhaps the largest collection of winter hardy ferns, perhaps in the entire world, numbering almost 400 different species. But we have selections of many of those species, so our total fern collection totals almost 4,000. And we are collecting spores from more and more species, so what we have to sell is expanding and will continue to expand as we decide that certain ferns that aren't otherwise available in the nursery trade need to be available in the nursery trade. About half of the ferns in our collection are evergreen, so they remain attractive through the winter months. Rhodias are a year-round part, and this is Kit Kat. She'll lead the tour from this point on. If she hasn't already told you, she's starving. The Rhodia japonica is a fairly common shade plant and an absolutely superb one. It's evergreen, but this is a new species, very much larger growing than Rhodia japonica, and it's a new enough species that it hasn't been officially named, and the name we've put on is SP Novae, for species novae, new species, with a tentative name of it means very elegant, elegantissima. The issima ending in a scientific word just means very. And it's just this gorgeous, big, broad foliage. Okay. Yes, it's from China. It came from a nursery in China, and they tended to just ship anything they found in the wild, and it wasn't necessary. You were looking at the back of the labels.
I was looking at the date. I assume you don't have hardiness. It was planted in 2021, I guess.
Yeah.
But you don't know whether it's like a zone 6, like Rhodia?
No, because I don't know the answer to your question whether other people are trialing it in colder climates. I don't know. And on our labels there is a QR code that currently doesn't take you anywhere, but it will eventually. But under the QR code is the date, the year that a plant was planted.
Okay.
So you know how many winters it has gone through, and it was planted in, where are my glasses? 2013, I think, is what I'm seeing. So it's gone through quite a few winters. On the back of the label is the source and then also the location in the bed. And most of our beds, this isn't information you really want to know on your garden tour, but all our beds are usually named after a significant tree, a woody plant, and this bed is named after the Kedelaria, the conifer. There was one bed that confused me for a long time because it was the AC bed, and I was trying to figure out what plant is AC. Well, it was air conditioner.
One last thing, Doug. Is the spike and the berries showier as well, bigger?
The spike is taller. We have not got much seed set on it. I've only found a very few fruit on it. And, you know, I'm very much involved with the seed collecting in the garden. I'm not the one who does most of the work, but I need to make sure the things that need to be collected get collected, and sometimes let's collect them and throw them away so they don't seed around. Yeah. But, you know, we collect an awful lot for our nursery. We collect a lot for our new members program because we do a seed list for our members. And they're often really choice things we collect from the garden. We also give seeds to various other plant societies like the North American Rock Garden Society, the Hardy Plant Society, etc. And so I have not, I think I've lost my train of thought. And your original question, Tom, was,
how are the berries also?
They're not much bigger than japonica. Yeah, but oh, I know what I was going to say. If you want plants to produce fruit, there's a great value in planting more than one individual close enough to each other so you can get cross-pollination. Because even though this plant has perfect flowers, which is the botanical term for a flower that has both male and female parts, a lot of plants aren't self-pollinating. They're self-sterile, and so they depend on pollen being transferred from another plant onto the female part of the flower. So if I ruled the world, or at least this garden, I would have multiple plants of this same species planted near enough so it had cross-pollination.
Wonder if it's been divided yet.
A few individuals have been and put into the nursery productions, but rhodias multiply real slowly. All right. Okay. I know over this way. Which way to go? Oh dear. In addition to the true ferns, we grow quite a few different species of asparagus fern, and I think all of them will grow out in full sun, but also be quite good in light shade. Yeah, that is Asparagus virgatus. And that's an example of a plant where the plants are either male or female, so you don't get much fruit set unless the male and the female are close enough that the bees can transfer pollen from one to the other. Of course, hostas are an essential part of the shade garden, and amongst the hostas you have, you know, blue and yellow and white variegated foliage, so they add some color to the shade garden. The floral display is a bonus. We have the giant Titanarum coming into bloom in early next month, but this is a little Japanese relative of the Titanarum. This is Amorphophallus kiusianus. It has a rather small flower, but the fruit spike is spectacular. And before you pop it in your mouth when I'm giving garden talks and stuff, I use fruit in the botanical sense to mean that part of the plant that bears the seed. So they could be edible fruit or poisonous fruit. But just because I'm calling it a fruit doesn't mean you pop it in the mouth. Now, they are aroids, and most aroids are poisonous, at least until they're cooked. One of the most important food crops in the tropical part of the world are is taro, which is the same plant as elephant ears, and that is poisonous until it's cooked. But Morphophallus konjac, the real common winter hardy one, the tubers are cooked and used as a food. We grow many different Solomon seals. This is one of our bigger ones. It's a lovely thing. And talking about edible, the flowers of Solomon seals are edible, and they taste like green peas. We ate quite a few this spring. And of course there's variegated ones that add a lot of color. Japanese painted ferns. If your Japanese painted ferns get real shabby by midsummer, just cut them to the ground and they'll regrow. Our native May apples are already largely dormant for this until they come back next spring, but the Asian May apples are have foliage all through the summer. This one has really dark marked foliage early in the spring, but now it's mostly turned green. Most of the May apples are strong spreaders, so you know, maybe not the perfect plant for a small garden, but oh.
What is that?
Well, the tag is recording a cross that I made, so maybe that is a result of the hybrid. I got maybe 3 or 4 crosses made. That's the same species, different selection. Oh. The Farfugiums are almost evergreen shade garden plants. You know, I love beautiful foliage, and in the summertime, when the shade garden is mostly foliage and not flowers, I don't feel like it's something we have to settle for, but something we can really enjoy. And you know, there are various shades of green, and green is sort of a color we don't think of or we take for granted in the garden, but it's really the most essential color in the garden. But when you're designing gardens, you're working not just with color, but also shapes and textures. And there's a wonderful play of different shapes and textures. A very bold cypress knee here. That's what almost tripped me. You know, the very largely rounded leaf of the Farfugium, but several different ferns. Most people really love this, the golden zebra. Yeah, golden zebra. It's a selection of bamboo fern, Asian species, that is very vigorous, except for golden zebra is much slower, but once it gets started, it gets better year after year. And the ground cover underneath it, believe it or not, is an impatient, just like the Busy Lizzie, the plant in the garden, but it's a perennial impatient that spreads gently underground. It's bloomed already in the spring, and then it'll bloom late summer and fall. It's the common annual impatiens have a flat flower, but most impatiens have a more of a tubular flower, like our native impatiens capensis that you see in damp woodlands. Everybody know that plant? Great. If you have a damp woodland and room to spare, our native impatiens is a great hummingbird plant. This one is perennial. Our native species is an annual that comes back from seed every year. Let's see. Oh, we'll go this way. I love the curcumas. The curcumas are same genus as turmeric, and they are a subtropical plant that's winter hardy here. The foliage will be fresh all summer long. And if you're shopping for hostas, I think the best time to shop for hostas is visit a garden that has a hosta collection. Don't look at the plants in the nursery. See which ones are still fresh looking in late summer, And those are the ones that I would always go for. A lot of the modern hostas have been bred with, sturdier leaves and more vigor, and they're probably really good. But I remember the old-fashioned ones I grew up with. By midsummer, they were sort of mostly green and tired-looking. But the curcumas, the turmeric relatives, have beautiful foliage. They're commonly called hidden cone ginger. They are same family as ginger, different genus, but the inflorescences comes up from the rhizome, and it would be under the foliage, which is why they're hidden cone. And then the arrangement of bracts looks like a pine cone. They're quite showy, but sometimes you have to look for them.
Are we going to pass the variegated one?
I would love to, but there's one down in that garden if you want to. Well,
you can go whichever way you're going, but
well,
how many are there? Just one, or are there more? Variegated.
One what?
Variegated version.
Well, there's that old one, Petiolata Emperor, which has a showy but fairly modest white rim, and then there's do you remember the name of the one with a whole lot of white? It's Snow something or another. If you went through the sunken garden and followed the path as if you were going out into the sun garden, they're right under the Zelkova, in that where the path gets narrow and curves around out to the outside. That one is really showy.
I'll look for that.
Yeah. All right. Of course, we don't have to focus just on woody plants. Akubas are shade lovers, and there are many selections with really colorful foliage. That's the one we used to call, well, I'm not remembering. The new cultivar name is Limbata. It doesn't typically make stems with solid yellow leaves, but this one has been doing that. Unfortunately, I think if you rooted one of these stems that have solid yellow leaves, I'm told that they will not survive. They don't have enough chlorophyll to survive. Another Akuba. The ginger lilies, the Hedychium, again, related to the culinary ginger, but with the flower spike up at the top of the pseudostem. And most of the Hedychiums we grow will grow in full sun, and this will tolerate full sun, but the foliage looks crappy. You can see a few that are outside the hedge in the sunken garden, and the plants are growing strongly, but the foliage looks lousy. So the ones that prefer shade actually the foliage looks much better when they're grown in the shade. This is Hedychium densiflorum. You can see why they would have named it densiflorum, because there's so many flowers in the spike. I get a little bit of fragrance. I led a tour a couple days ago, and one of the people in the tour found it very fragrant. It's a selection called Stefan, and they'll continue to put up new stems over the course of the summer, and as the stem matures, each one will bloom. And they're growing from a rhizome underground that looks very much like the culinary ginger.
About this, Doug.
Yeah.
Would you expect maybe a shade-tolerating Hedychium to be a little hardier because it's got the canopy of trees, maybe, or does it matter?
Because they're deciduous, I don't think the tree canopy would affect its hardiness. If it was an evergreen shrub that was marginally hardy, yeah, that especially an evergreen canopy can give it a little bit of frost protection. The hardiness zones are really useful, but they don't take into consideration the duration of a cold spell. I moved to North Carolina in 1979. The glaciers had just moved north by that point. And typically our soil would freeze overnight and thaw out each day, so we never get much frost penetration. But if we went down to a low temperature and stayed there for days on end, and you had a lot of frost penetration of the soil, something like this ginger lily might not survive that cold spell. The doll's eyes are in full berries, full fruit. They'll turn whiter, and you see the little black spot on the end of the fruit, which is why they're called doll's eyes. It's, well, they changed the name. This is, oh wait. Oh, that's funny. False Solomon seal's fruit look almost like this, but this is Zactea, which used to be Simicifuga, the snake roots, but now they've lumped them together. But the flowers look like a little plume of white flowers. And this is another Rhodia japonica. I think it's one of the, well, it's one I really love. Otome. Otome means princess. Yeah. And of course, the epimediums we grow primarily for the spring flower display, but the foliage is beautiful through the summer. And back there is one of the evergreen Solomon seal, the disporum. Yeah, the disporum. No, that's disporopsis, meaning resembling disporum. But this is the common Solomon seal, the Polygonatum odoratum, but a really beautiful selection, angel wings. These might actually be labeled something differently because this cultivar exists in the nursery trade under several names. Another ginger family member, I didn't realize this was going to be a, well, former member of the ginger family and former member of the genus Costus. This poor thing has an identity crisis now. But this used to be in the genus Costus, and the label still says that, and now it's in the genus Hellenia. But commonly they're called spiral gingers, and you see how the leaves sort of spiral down the stem. It has a slightly fuzzy underside to the leaf, but some of them have real softly felted leaves. Shall we look at a few other things? Yeah. Oh, one thing that's starting to add some a bit of a floral display to the garden are the lycoris. You can plant them in full sun, but they will also do well in the shade garden because they have foliage through the winter months and will make use of the winter sun. Tony has for years bred hostas, and one focus he had in breeding hostas was improving the floral display. The flowers are I mean, the foliage is beautiful, and all the different variegated ones are very colorful, but he really focused on a floral display. One of our Asian mayapple cultivars standing tall that is exceptionally tall.
I got a question about that.
Yeah.
If you were to buy, say, a quart pot today, how long would it take it to get that type of height to it?
It might do it next spring, or it might be the year after that. They are strong spreaders. These are not seedlings here, but rather they're spreading underground. Grasses, for the most part, are plants that want to be out in full sun, but the Hakone grass from Hakone Prefecture in Japan is a really beautiful shade grass, and this is the cultivar Solar Flare. In the spring, when it first puts up new growth, it's yellow with some red highlights, but sort of remains a yellow-green through the summer months. This heuchera is a poor representative of itself, so I'm not going to talk about it. Well, most of the palms we grow can grow either out in full sun or in shade. This is one of the sable palms. Big, bold foliage for any garden, really. And this is one of the trunkless ones, the dwarf palmettos, that doesn't develop an above ground trunk. That's its fruit spike. And we harvest all the seed before it is shed in the fall, so we don't end up with lots of seedlings. We use some of the seed for nursery production, and we sell the rest of the seed. But they're really beautiful, bold foliage plants. Of course, most hydrangeas are shade garden plants. This is past the peak of a lot of them, but in the front garden, there's a hydrangea involucrata that is only starting to bloom right now and eventually becomes quite a big plant. Actually, in the by the pond in the old garden up front, there's a great big hydrangea in full bloom. It's one of the Aspera group with the big, broad, flat lace cap head. It's quite beautiful. I just saw this in bloom. This is a plant we struggle with. This is Gordlinia, which is a hybrid between two native plants. One of the Franklinia, and Franklinia is a deciduous tree, only found once or just a very few times in Georgia, and then hasn't been found since the late 1700s or even the 1800s, so early 1800s, so it's thought to be extinct, but persists in cultivation. And then Gordonia is a very similar plant, fairly common on the coastal plain in the southeast, and it's basically an evergreen Franklinia, and they cross the two. I know decades ago, a plant breeder at Rutgers was hybridizing them to sort of determine how closely related they are. But they're members of the tea family, the Camellia family, and will continue blooming for extended period of time. Don't slip on these muddy paths. These are buds not yet open. So that's just a little taste of the shade garden. I'm happy to answer questions if people have questions, but you know, you came on this tour, so I have to assume you're interested in shade garden plants. The original 2.5 acre garden up front is primarily a shade garden now. I saw both of these gardens develop, and they started off full sun gardens, but you plant enough little trees, they eventually become big trees. And indeed, the garden up front, the trees have been thinned out several times, but still remain very shady. But they're comfortable places to visit on a hot day. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.